Welcome again to Joe Stunner Boxing. How are you doing? I hope you're doing well. Now, we've got, as you know, we've got Jermaine Franklin versus Anthony Joshua. Joshua's big comeback. I'm looking forward to this fight. A lot of people have said they think it'll be a Joshua blowout early. I'm not so sure. I think Joshua will start a little bit cautious, a little bit reticent to start with, and will then settle in once his confidence grows and will. People are saying he'll score a knockout. I have a feeling this might go the distance, actually, and that's what I said in my little preview video. But I don't think it'll be one-way traffic. I think while it lasts, Franklin will be putting it on, well, not putting it on Joshua, but will be, he's crafty enough to counterpunch, to pot shot, and give Joshua potentially some problems. And I think Joshua's going to have to be on his game to handle him. I want to see lots of jabs, straight, obviously ramrod jab, and then straight punches. If you're up close, a few hooks will do, but ideally I want to see straight punches. Anyway, apart from that, what's interesting about this is that it's on free-to-air on DAZN just as well, because DAZN rather infamously now said, we're going to get rid of pay-per-view, and then of course they reneged as is their want, because they are still losing a lot of money, and they need to somehow recoup some of that money. So pay-per-view it is, but not this time. And there have been reports about Joshua not selling out the O2, and then there's been some talk by Frank Smith probably taking a leaf out of Eddie Hearn's book and saying, well, the reason for it doesn't appear to be selling out is because there's no secondary market. Well, there is a secondary market, Frank, because I've been over and had a look, and there are tickets for sale on StubHub, etc. And anyway, what are you saying? He's saying that the only reason Joshua's previous fight sold out is because huge swathes of tickets were sold to StubHub, and to give the image of it, or the illusion of it being a sellout. Yeah, that's what you were doing, wasn't it? Let's be honest here. Anyway. What I want to do is I want to talk about the undercard, because this is free to air. If you're a DAZN subscriber, you can watch it. But the undercard is weak, all right? And whereas Hearn, when he was at Sky, the undercards of even the free-to-air stuff they were pretty good. Overall, they were quite good. And also he had a lot more next-gen shows than he was having. And when I say they were good, what I mean is they were competitive fights. They weren't necessarily world-class fights. It doesn't matter, because you can have entertainment from low-level stuff. We've said this all along. You go to the York Hall, you go to a leisure centre somewhere. I've watched, I can remember one of the best cards I ever saw was back in the late 80s when it was at St Albans Civic Centre, I think. It's an obscure place to put a fight on, but it was Sean Murphy, the former British featherweight champ. He was headlining. And there were some great cards on great fights on the undercard. So they don't have to be high level. But when Hearn was with Sky, he was putting on these very, very good competitive fights with lower level guys. That's all changed because of the money situation, no doubt. And if you look at this card, let's go through it. Okay, so you've got Galaxi Phi, who is, again, he's currently 3-0 at the moment, and he had a very tough time in his previous fight. Didn't look great. Some people thought he lost against Gohan Garcia, and he actually won a split decision over that. And that was for the WBC International flyweight title. Actually, Yafai won that in his second fight on a second round stoppage, and prior to that, his debut was a 5-round stoppage. So he went in with this Gohan Garcia, and Garcia at the time was 12-1, I think 1 draw. So he wasn't a mug, and he struggled. Yafai struggled quite badly, and I know a lot of people who say they thought he lost that fight. So he's now in against Moises Calleros. And Moises Calleros is 36 wins, 10 defeats, 4 of which have been by knockout, and 1 draw. And of his 36 wins, 19 were by knockout, which he's no slouch, but it doesn't suggest he's a banger. So maybe I'm thinking, I don't know a great deal about Calleros. I don't think I've ever seen him. I think I saw him get knocked out in 2 rounds by Julio Cesar Martinez, and I can't remember any of us ever seen him before. But when I looked at BoxRec, he has got, I think, 9 wins out of his last 10, the exception being the Martinez knockout. and it's against, you know, lower level opposition. He's a Mexican guy. He fights in Mexico. A lot of these Mexican fighters, you can't really, their records can be deceiving. They can be deceiving, but you know, he's coming over here. Credit to him. 36-10-1, and he's going to take on Yafai. All right, okay. So yeah, maybe a drop down for Yafai, but it could be an entertaining fight. I don't know. Then you've got Fabio Wardley, who is fighting Michael Coffey. And Michael Coffey, he twice lost to Jonathan Rice, back-to-back stoppages, I think. He was being groomed as a sort of, I think, a PBC, prospect or a possible star for the future. But he bumped into Jonathan Rice, and Rice slapped him around and stopped him twice. And then he had a win. And then in his last fight, he retired after 6 rounds in an 8-rounder against someone I wasn't familiar with. So an undefeated fighter was only 3-0. So he's damaged goods, Coffey. And he's going in with Wardley. And I expect nothing other than a Wardley win by stoppage, by knockout. Probably in about 3 or 4 rounds. Then you've got Austin Williams, who is another prospect. But who's he fighting? He's fighting none other than River Wilson Bent, who is a good domestic level fighter, but is going to get blitzed by Ammo Williams. You would expect him to go out in about 3 rounds, 2-3 rounds, 4 rounds maybe. All right, and that's no disrespect to River Wilson Bent. I don't dislike the guy. I think he's a good, domestic level fighter. But to be honest with you, he is not beating Austin Williams. He's not. He's just not going to do it. And it's a shame. It's a shame that Williams, there was some talk about Williams going in with Felix Cash, and Felix Cash was meant to be on this card, but pulled out because the guy who was fighting for the European title was injured, I think. And to be honest with you, that was a fight where, I mean, the guy, what's the guy's name? Signani? Can't remember his first name. He's Italian. I know I've seen him before. But he's like 43 years old. He's got statistically a really good record, but it's mostly most of his fights were in Italy. He's like I say, he's 43. So Cash was probably viewed that as an easy EBU pickup, but it's not going to happen. So that's a shame. But why not put Ammo Williams in with Cash? They were having a bit of argy-bargy after Cash's last fight. So why not stick them in together? I don't get it. I don't get that. Unless, of course, what they're doing is, what Hearn and Matchroom are doing, is they're putting them to one side and saying, okay, we'll build that fight for a bigger occasion. But anyway, Austin Williams versus River Wilson Bent. I'm tempted to say a mismatch. Cash is not on the card anymore. And another one that was cancelled due to injury was Craig Richards against Ricards Bolotniks, which would have been a pretty good fight. I like Richards a lot. Bolotniks I like very much. He gives his all. He won one of those MTK tournaments, that golden ticket thing, didn't he? I wonder what became of that. We won't go there. But Ricards Bolotniks suffered a hand injury, I think it was. So that's off. So that's another one. Look, and my question is, could they not have found, if they're not going to put Felix Cash in with Williams, could they not have found him a place on the undercard against someone else? Could they not have put Craig Richards on against someone else, even if it's a 10-round runaround? You know, these are decent names that would have padded out the undercard, but no sign of them. Then we come to Campbell Hatton, the much maligned Campbell Hatton, and I think people, I can understand why they get pissed off hearing Campbell Hatton's name, because it is there because of his father's name. But he's a young lad, he's working hard, he's trying to be as good as he can possibly be. I don't see him being more than a British level at most. I've not seen no evidence of that, but you never know. You just never know. And, you know, if he wins an English title, at least he can say he's done something in his career. But my God, he's had some opportunities, hasn't he? And he's fighting someone called Lewis Fielding. Have I seen Fielding before? Probably have. Can't remember offhand. Anyway, Campbell Hatton against Lewis Fielding. Make of it what you will. Then there's Jordan Flynn against Kane Baker. Again, Kane Baker, good domestic level fighter, a real trier. Jordan Flynn, one of the prospects. And there's a few others that I'm not familiar with who are in against the standard low-level opposition. Now, this to me is not a great undercard, all right? Sometimes undercards surprise you. You have some competitive fights, but I'm looking at this and quickly analysing it. I don't really see that this has been the case of any kind of hidden gems being in there. I just don't see it. So I don't know. I'm disappointed in this, but it is a freebie. But it does. It's not a freebie. I keep saying that it's not pay-per-view. If you subscribe to the DAZN, you will get this as a standard part of your package. But at the same time, when you compare in the past what Hearn and Matchroom did, their free-to-air cards were pretty good, even if they were domestic level. They had competitive fights. I don't see too many competitive fights on this card. This to me smacks of fill-in and padding. And you have to say, as much as I loathe and despise Frank Warren, if you look at some of the BT cards, even though again they're quite low level, some of those fights have been competitive. I mean, the one at the weekend last weekend was good stuff. You know, it wasn't a bad little card. And BT, as far as the domestic level goes, and Warren, as far as the domestic level goes, they do those, you know, local, if you like, cards, those leisure centre cards, smaller venue cards. They're doing them very well because they are putting on competitive fights. With this, I wanted more. But especially as it's Anthony Joshua, you know, and the great comeback and all this business. But yeah, that's the way it is. Let me know what you think. Leave your comments below. Subscribe if you're new. Hit the subscribe button. Hit the like button. That always helps us out as well. Trying to build the channel up, of course. Thank you for your time as always. We'll speak again soon. Bye-bye for now.